Before you is one of the largest and most powerful stars in our universe. It is 10 million times brighter, 315 times larger, and 256 times heavier than our Sun. The temperature of this hypergiant is 53,000 degrees Celsius. For comparison, our Sun is heated to a mere 5,500 degrees. The blue hypergiant R136A1 was recently discovered in the Tarantula Nebula in the Large Magellanic Cloud Galaxy. It constantly spews powerful stellar wind in all directions, ejecting enormous amounts of material into interstellar space, material from which new planets may eventually form. The author of the discovery is British astrophysicist Paul Crowther. Looking directly at this stellar monster through the most powerful telescope on Earth, he could not believe his eyes for a long time. Stars of such size and power simply cannot exist. Because they cannot exist, the astronomer declared, and he was almost right. The thing is, our 136A1 has about 300 solar masses. Any astronomer will tell you, if a star's mass exceeds 120 to 150 solar masses, it should be torn apart by its own powerful radiation. And yet the blue hypergiant R136A1 exists. By the way, Professor Crowther had to work very hard to prove it. He dug up all the Hubble telescope archives and convinced his colleagues that this stellar monster had already appeared in the telescope's field of view many times before. But that's not the main point. Our 136A1 exists in defiance of the laws of physics and completely refutes some important provisions of stellar evolution theory. Or maybe we humans simply don't yet fully understand how the universe is actually arranged. July 16th, 1945, the United States, New Mexico, Alamogordo test site. The first test of nuclear weapon technology in Earth's history. The operation was known as Trinity.
3, 2, 1.
After those terrible explosions, the world was horrified by the incredible destructive power of the thermonuclear reaction. But the scariest realization came later when people understood thermonuclear fusion is dangerous because it is almost uncontrollable. All we can do is start the process, and then it's up to God. To truly tame thermonuclear fusion, we need to figure out how our universe is really structured. After all, according to official science, it is thermonuclear energy that has ruled the cosmos since the very beginning. You don't have to look far for examples. Just think, why does the sun shine and warm us? In 1920, Arthur Eddington asked himself this very question and proved that thermonuclear reactions are taking place in the depths of our star, releasing colossal amounts of energy. That energy is what warms the Earth. Thermonuclear fusion in the sun's core gives life not only to Earth, but to the entire solar system. Just look at that power. Now raise your head and look at the starry sky. The moon, planets, constellations. Romance? No, pure energy. We see the light of distant stars also thanks to thermonuclear fusion happening inside every celestial body. Every star is essentially a giant thermonuclear reactor. Different sizes, different power, but the processes are the same. The fuel is hydrogen, which, under the influence of extremely high temperatures, turns into helium, releasing light and colossal energy. While our sun feeds only the solar system, distant stars supply energy to at least half of the visible universe. And not only energy. In 1957, astrophysicist Margaret Burbage suggested that most of the chemical elements that make up our world were also born, and continue to be born, inside stars. But recently, astrophysicists have begun to doubt even this hypothesis. At George Washington University in Seattle, scientists carefully studied cosmic thermonuclear processes for a long time, examined nearby and distant stars under different types of radiation, and came to a sensational conclusion. Thermonuclear stellar fusion is only the tip of the iceberg, a tiny campfire lit near a nuclear power plant. In reality, the universe is ruled by microscopic particles, quarks. They are so small that it is impossible to even see them. And in early 2019, an even more sensational statement was made. It turned out that thermonuclear fusion inside stars is still just the beginning. Real power is born when quarks collide with each other, the smallest particles existing in the universe. The energy released in the process is tens or even hundreds of times greater than in the cores of ordinary thermonuclear stars. The first serious doubts arose in the heads of astrophysicists on September 18, 2006, when a supernova exploded in the constellation Perseus. In scientific circles, it is known as SN 2006GY. For us, it is one of the brightest stars in the universe. The chance to record such a supernova explosion is 1 in tens of millions. Everything happens suddenly, unpredictably, and instantly. Before you is a unique photograph. The first and only image of a supernova explosion in the entire history of astronomy. In the scientific community, it is generally accepted that a supernova flare occurs at the moment when a star dies. It explodes, scattering into pieces. Most of the mass ends up in interstellar space, while the core, heated and compressed by the explosion, turns into what is called a neutron star. This is the legendary neutron star in the Crab Nebula. It exploded around 1054 and was visible even during the day. Only a year later, it disappeared from the sky. Yes, you heard correctly. It is quite possible that it became the prototype of the Star of Bethlehem. But today we are interested in something else. Its diameter is only 30 kilometers. Its rotation speed is 30 revolutions per second. It is the most powerful source of optical, X-ray, and gamma radiation. Its magnetic field is more than 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. But that's not all. The fact is that every 3 months, bright jets form around it. You can see them in the photograph. They fly off in different directions at enormous speed. These strange jets look like the product of therm-quark synthesis occurring in the depths of neutron stars. And this, you must agree, is more impressive than Goethe's Faust. Because, in essence, this unremarkable 30-kilometer dwarf star creates new matter out of nothing. Scientists tried to extract and carefully examine a single quark, but they failed. The experiment failed, and not just failed, but failed spectacularly. As soon as scientists tried to isolate the stubborn particle, so much energy was released that a new quark immediately formed nearby. But quarks don't travel alone. Participant in the experiment, physicist Gerard T. Hooft, told the scientific community that this has a direct relation to the formation of the universe. This is how matter is born, he declared. Where? You will ask. Where there are many quarks, Scientists will answer you. The only suitable place is the cores of neutron stars. Theoretically, neutron stars where such processes occur should be very small, less than 10 kilometers in diameter, and extremely powerful. And such objects have indeed been found. In May 2018, the orbital telescope NICER discovered an unusual pair of burned-out dwarf stars in the constellation Era. They could easily fit between the Earth and the Moon. And in June 2018, a supernova flared up in the constellation Hercules, turning after the explosion into a neutron dwarf. The event was named COW 2018. Don't be surprised. The name was randomly generated by a computer, and it's stuck in the scientific community. It's terrifying to imagine that this star really consists of quarks. And inside it, thermonuclear synthesis is taking place, and matter is being formed just like in the first seconds after the birth of the universe. By the way, there are about 1 billion neutron stars in our galaxy. The question is, who came up with and launched these stellar nuclear power plants that continuously provide energy and create the visible matter of our universe?
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
14 billion years ago, the entire universe fit entirely into a point of infinitely small size, practically equal to zero. Scientists call it the singularity point. And then it exploded, and how it exploded. The universe broke into pieces that rushed in different directions. From the flying fragments of this infinitely small point, whose size was smaller than atoms, space, time, stars, planets, and even the eyelashes on your eyes were formed. This, in brief, is what the Big Bang Theory looks like. The theory appeared after astronomers noticed that stars and galaxies are flying apart in different directions. An American from Arizona, Vesto Slipher, back in 1913, discovered that the Andromeda Nebula was approaching Earth at 300 kilometers per second. He wasn't scared. He started observing. By 1917, after carefully studying 41-star nebulae, Slipher confidently declared, "The world is not standing still. 4-star nebulae are flying toward Earth, while 37 are moving away from it, and at a simply mind-blowing speed." Slipher drew his conclusions based on spectral analysis and presented photographs to his colleagues as evidence. Nebulae approaching Earth glowed blue, while those moving away glowed red, exactly matching the Doppler effect. In 1929, astronomer Edwin Hubble clarified, the redshift for distant galaxies is greater than for nearby ones, and it increases in proportion to the distance. This meant only one thing: the universe is expanding. But why? Turning the picture of the universe's expansion back in time, physicists inevitably came to the conclusion of a primary push, an explosion that caused the observed scattering of matter. The scientific world agreed. The cause of the universe's expansion was the inertia of the Big Bang. We are all flying somewhere. This is a fact. Look at how our solar system moves through space. The destination of the journey is hidden from us. But scientists know that other stars, and even entire galaxies, are also rushing somewhere nearby. While observing stellar races through a telescope in 2018, astronomers realized that they are not safe. Just look for yourself. This is a cosmic car accident. Before you is a photo of the incident. Two galaxies, NGC 4485 and NGC 4490. apparently failed to control their speed or lost control. As a result, they collided. Our Milky Way galaxy has also repeatedly collided with its neighbors. The exact date could not be determined, but the result of this catastrophe was found. Before you is the constellation Ursa Major. Zooming in and sharpening the image, we see a star named J1124 plus 4535. It turned out, and this is confirmed by chemical analysis, that the star is a visitor. It is not from our galaxy at all. Why? You will ask. Because instead of hydrogen and helium, which are the most common elements in the universe, it consists of europium, an element that is practically impossible to find on Earth or even on the stars of the Milky Way. But the galaxies neighboring the Milky Way consist almost entirely of europium. This means that the Milky Way once collided with one of those galaxies. But if the universe is expanding as a result of the inertia of the Big Bang, then we should be flying apart in different directions along centrifugal trajectories. And such accidents should, by definition, be impossible. Something is clearly wrong with the Big Bang theory, you will ask, and you will be right. Meet Sir Fred Hoyle, astrophysicist, writer, professor at Cambridge. A child prodigy in his youth, a recluse in his old age. It was he who named the original cosmic cataclysm the Big Bang. Moreover, he did it as a joke during a popular science program on the BBC. They say that Sir Fred, as a true knight, had an excellent sense of humor and, with his characteristic irony, put down his scientific opponents on air by calling the cosmic cataclysm not an explosion, but the Big Bang, hinting at the entire absurdity of this theory. The fact is that the Big Bang theory had a purely technical paradox. Mathematical calculations showed if there was an explosion, then the age of the universe should not be less than the age of the Earth. But that's complete nonsense, you must agree. Sir Fred Hoyle proposed a way out of this scientific dead end. In 1948, together with mathematician Hermann Bondi and engineer, later astronomer Thomas Gold, he published the theory of the steady-state universe. Its essence boiled down to a very simple principle. The expansion of the universe is happening, but it had no beginning. It is happening eternally. Quite a statement, you will say. If the expansion is eternal, then the galaxies would have long since scattered in different directions, and we would be surrounded by complete emptiness. However, Sir Hoyle had an answer to this question as well. Empty space is constantly giving birth to new matter. From it, new stars and galaxies are formed, filling the gaps between the flying old ones. Moreover, they are formed at such a speed that the average density of the universe does not change. Confirmation of Hoyle's theory was only considered by astronomers in 2018. It turned out that the Milky Way is surrounded by dwarf galaxies. Scientists have already counted almost 60 of them. They are very small and dim, so it is impossible to notice them without powerful telescopes. The situation is further complicated by the fact that these cosmic crumbs are completely isolated. They resemble soap bubbles, inside which there are stars, but not ordinary ones, the oldest stars in the universe. This was discovered very simply. As we know, the most common element in the universe is hydrogen, almost 90%. It makes up both stars and interstellar gas. Helium comes next. All other elements of the periodic table make up only 0.1%. But the dwarf galaxies discovered by astronomers consist mainly of heavy elements from the periodic table. Is this possible? It is possible if thermonuclear fusion began in them at least during the Big Bang and has not stopped since. Just imagine how much time is needed for heavy elements located at the very end of the periodic table to form in the thermonuclear cores of ancient stars. However, this is possible only if we accept the truth of Sir Fred Hoyle's steady-state universe theory. A beautiful hypothesis, isn't it? But it also has its weak points. In 1965, relic radiation was discovered, the echo of the Big Bang. So it did happen after all. It is impossible to ignore this fact. This year, astronomers compiled a map of the ancient light of the universe, and it presented them with many unexpected surprises. Before you is a map of the so-called first or ancient light of the universe. It was compiled by astronomers of the European Space Agency based on data from the Planck telescope. For 4 years, from 2009 to 2013, it collected data in space about background microwave radiation. Astronomers wanted to detect the oldest light that appeared immediately after the birth of the universe. As soon as the environment cooling after the Big Bang became transparent enough for photons to move freely in it. According to scientists' calculations, this happened 380,000 years after the Big Bang. The period from the Big Bang to the appearance of the ancient light is called the Dark Ages of the universe, and they became the main cosmological mystery. So what really happened during that time? To answer this question, the Large Hadron Collider was built, pouring huge amounts of taxpayers' money into it. With the help of a 30-kilometer particle accelerator, physicists dreamed of simulating the Big Bang and observing what would happen, realizing that the risk was enormous. Calculations show that after the Big Bang, the young universe was a quark-gluon plasma in which there were still no atoms or elementary particles, only powerful and aggressive energy. Quark-gluon plasma still exists today in the centers of neutron stars and black holes. British cosmologist and astrophysicist Martin Rees warns, there is no joking with this. This substance is literally capable of destroying the Earth by compressing our unfortunate planet thousands of times. The prospects, you must agree, are not the most pleasant. And yet experiments at the collider are in full swing, because those who do not take risks will never get to the truth. In 2010, scientists from the European Center for Nuclear Research managed to create a very, very small Big Bang at the Large Hadron Collider. To do this, they collided lead atom nuclei. And guess what? A temperature was released that was millions of times higher than the temperature in the center of the sun. And the scientists managed to record traces of the first substance, quark-gluon plasma. It was the sensation of the century. After all, our entire world, both living and non-living, was formed from this substance. And most importantly, the experiment proved that the Big Bang did happen after all. And this means that the universe arose from nothing. You understand that from nothing you cannot bake bread or even make a simple trinket. What can we say about stars and planets? We want to warn you right away. Don't be scared if you are completely confused or have stopped understanding what is being said. Even serious scientists are still scratching their heads, trying to figure out the essence of the question. So, nothing gave birth to the universe. Among the supporters of this theory is the famous theoretical physicist from England, Stephen Hawking, a bright and extraordinary personality. Just look at his statements about the universe. Judge for yourself. Let's start with aliens. The famous physicist Enrico Fermi in the early 1950s posed a problem to the scientific community that scientists are still enthusiastically solving. It went down in the history of science as the Fermi paradox. The conditions are simple. If there are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy, then it is logical to assume that intelligent civilizations arise near some of them from time to time. As they develop, they begin to explore neighboring star systems. Can a reasonable super-civilization colonize the entire galaxy? And if so, how much time will it need? And now the facts. On September 5, 1977, the American spacecraft Voyager 1 was launched from Cape Canaveral. Exactly 16 days later, its twin brother Voyager 2 was launched from the same launch pad. This program became one of the most significant in human history. After all, the Voyagers were supposed to explore the giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, which are very far from Earth. But there was another mission. On board the spacecraft, there was a message for extraterrestrial civilizations. The carrier plate contained general information about human civilization in the form of the simplest drawings indicating the location of our planet in space, the structure of our DNA, and the main chemical elements of the Earth. For 30 years, the Voyagers, plowing the expanses of the universe, transmitted to Earth only the knocking of their electronic hearts. But on April 22, 2010, something incredible happened. Voyager 2, crossing the boundary of the heliopause, the place where the pressure of the solar wind is balanced by the pressure of external cosmic rays, suddenly sent a strange signal received from space. It was a real sensation. And although NASA claims that they did not receive any responses from extraterrestrial intelligence, it was just interference or a device malfunction, many scientists were sure our galactic neighbors had noticed us. And that's not all. On May 15, 2015, a new signal came from the star system HD 164595 in the constellation Hercules. It was recorded by astrophysicists from the Special Astrophysical Observatory of the Russian Academy of Sciences in Nizhny Arctis. Moreover, the strength of the signal indicated that it could have been sent not just by a reasonable, but by a technologically advanced civilization. To my mathematical mind, the numbers themselves are enough to accept the existence of aliens. This is something very rational. Astrophysicist Stephen Hawking said about this. The scientist did not doubt for a second the habitability of the universe and was seriously concerned that aliens might offend us, Earthlings. Nothing personal, just mathematics. After all, according to the Fermi paradox, extraterrestrial beings are looking for planets for conquest and colonization. This means that a meeting with them could be truly dangerous. But there is also another opinion. Astrophysicists Jason Wright, Jonathan Carl Nylander, Adam Frank, and Caleb Scharf are sure searching for cosmic civilizations is a waste of time, and the problem lies in incorrect calculations. Have you noticed that even the best minds of humanity continue to consider Earth the center of the universe and build their hypotheses based on this position? But astrophysicists noticed, "This is our main mistake," they declared. Look at the Sun. Even it has already made about 50 revolutions around the galactic center during its existence. The galaxy not only flies by inertia of the Big Bang, but also rotates around its intergalactic center, which also does not stand still. Thus, the spatial coordinates of the solar system are constantly and unpredictably changing, and it is almost impossible to calculate them. This means that meeting an extraterrestrial civilization face to face, the scientists stated. Although in reality life is much more interesting than scientific hypotheses. In May 2016, a group of astronomers from Belgium and the USA, led by Michael Gillen, spotted a small star in our galaxy, in the constellation Aquarius, surrounded by 3 planets. A year later, it turned out that there were 4 more nearby. Moreover, they are located in the habitable zone and suspiciously resemble our Earth. The discovery had just been made, but we can already see this 7. It was named TRAPPIST, one after the telescope that managed to spot this unique planetary system in space. The animated drawings and graphs are accurate. The astronomers are convinced. They are so amazed by the existence of this system in our universe that in a short time they have studied all the planets. They are located so close to each other that if you are on one planet, you can see the surface of another. All the planets are close to Earth in size and other parameters, and 3 of them may be habitable. There is water there, an atmosphere is forming and being maintained. All the basic conditions for the development of biological life, just like ours. The discovery of these Earth-like planets is a great success, and it is important that they are located in another star system, because even stars are not eternal. Our sun is designed for only 10 billion years. 5 of which have already been lived. What does this mean? Guess for yourself. And if the sun dies, then all nearby planets will die too, regardless of whether there is intelligent life on them or not. Where will humanity run? Do you think this is an ordinary soccer ball in front of you? No, this is a model of the universe. This was recently stated by American astronomers. It is small, round, and has the shape of a dodecahedron, a regular geometric figure with 12 pentagonal faces. What nonsense, you will say. The universe is infinite. No, only 70 billion light years across, the Americans claim. They based this on data from the WMAP space probe, which from 2001 hunted for relic radiation, measuring its temperature and random fluctuations. The scientists entered the obtained data into a computer and built a model of the universe. And after that, they didn't know what to think. In an article published in the journal Nature, independent mathematician Jeffrey Weeks from New York State describes this space as a 12-sided mirror hall that creates the illusion of infinity by reflecting an endless series of copies of the same stars. This is how the theory of the multiverse was born. Even Albert Einstein, with his theory of relativity, described the universe as a bubble that is constantly expanding. But today we have to admit, such a bubble is not the only one. There may be others. Imagine a bathtub filled with foam in which billions of soap bubbles burst, connect, or disconnect, each in its own parallel world. The theory of the multiverse is winning the minds of both scientists and independent researchers who say that our universe is not the only one. This was said 50 years ago by the American physicist Hugh Everett. All this time his theory was considered absolutely fantastic. But new discoveries are making it more and more real. It looks like parallel dimensions really do exist. Hugh Everett was convinced that all worlds are intertwined with each other, and there must be passages between them. They are commonly called wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges. For a long time, tunnels between worlds were mistaken for black holes because they are very similar. Black holes are a dark, invisible monster. These are former stars that, after fading, became real monsters. They suck in everything that comes near them. But from wormholes, there is an exit. An object that gets inside will either pop out back or move to another part of space, and it will most likely no longer be our universe. The closest point of entry into neighboring universes is located right in the center of the Milky Way, in the constellation Sagittarius. This astronomical object is called Sagittarius A*, and it is only 26,000 light years away. In these sensational frames is the triumph of earthly science. Astronomers for the first time in history took a photograph of this black hole. It weighs 4 million times more than the Sun. In 2019, an international group of astrophysicists could not believe their eyes when they discovered that powerful cosmic rays began to erupt from Sagittarius A star. This cannot be. After all, a black hole should absorb everything that falls into its zone of attraction. Could it be that Sagittarius A* is really a wormhole? A space-time portal to another universe? But where does this passage lead? The one who someday decides to descend into these cosmic tunnels will not know where he will end up. But scientists are modeling all possible situations. Recently, astrophysicists have been particularly studying not only wormholes, but also black holes that only let things in but do not let them out. It turned out that one type creates a passage to several universes at once. But the bad thing is that it is arranged like a labyrinth, from which there is no way back to your own world. Can we reach wormholes and from our planet jump through the tunnel to another universe? Scientists say yes. And we will even have a choice. There are most likely many vast cosmic spaces similar to ours, and all of them are incredibly interesting.